What's up, everybody? Welcome to Listography. It is time for Jason, Joe, and myself, I'm Kramzer, to count down our favorite albums of the first year of the Willennium, as Joe likes to say, or millennium. It is the year 2000. So while everyone's freaking out that Y2K is going to send a bunch of nuclear missiles and shut down the entire infrastructure of the globe, Prince is counting down and kicks off the millennium with 1999 at midnight. Pretty awesome. Also going on in New York City, we've got a tribute show for Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, Bryan Adams, Cyndi Lauper perform. New York City is also where 50 Cent takes 9 bullets, gets his street cred, and becomes a big hip-hop pop star of the decade. What else is going on? There's a lot of terrible pop music as far as I'm concerned. This is not a good era for good mainstream pop like the 80s would be. There's just a lot of terrible boy bands, a lot of really young double threat dancing girls like Christina, J-Lo, Britney. The big singles are Music by Madonna, Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears, Beautiful Day by U2, Breathless by The Corrs, and It's My Life by Bon Jovi. So, not all young blood, but there is a big stylistic change in a lot of those artists like Madonna, and U2 kind of shifts their sound considerably, stuff like that. As far as album sales go, you're looking at NSYNC's No Strings Attached at number 1, Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears, Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem, Human Clay by Creed, and Supernatural carrying over from 99 by Santana, who cleans up at the Grammys this year. He wins 8. There's also the debut this year of the Latin Grammy Awards. As far as sort of the plane of rock, big divide here between indie and art house stuff, and then mainstream goes heavier, harder, new metal, hardcore, post-grunge, whatever you want to call all this stuff. For me, this is considerably better than the late 90s. I love this decade. 2000 looks a lot like 2020, where I have one masterpiece, a couple 4.5s, and a lot of 4s. So a big volume of great music, not the 70s in a year like 71 or 73, 74, where there's just Mount Rushmore of masterpieces and classics. But for really great stuff, I am littered with stuff to pick from. Total enjoyment of this year and this decade. And this is probably the weakest year of the decade for me. So I've got a lot to look forward to, but no complaints about 2000. What are you guys thinking as far as 2000 goes?
I love 2000. I listened to a ton of records. This was like the first year I really started paying attention to new stuff that was actually happening instead of the Beatles and Hendrix and Dave Matthews Band. So this year for me, I have a gigantic list of things that I wanted to sort of revisit. A lot of albums I like you said, Kramzer, a ton of 4 stars on this one. I really dig this year. It's a big step up from 99, 98, 96. 97 was a little better, but for me, it definitely, on the rise.
And for me, for you, really just in the dark on what your choices are going to be. Have no idea what you're going to pick for this decade. Jason and I kind of see eye to eye throughout this decade, but this is where we really start to branch off from one another. So I'm excited to see what this year and what this decade brings to you, from you.
I feel pretty much the same way that you guys do. I think this is a step up from the last couple of years that we've done, 98, 99 in particular. But I also don't think it's as good as the years that are on the horizon. Some of my favorite years ever coming up pretty soon. There's one year in this decade that I think is either my second or third favorite year of all time. So getting into some really good stuff for this year. I think it's a very good year, but not among the best ever.
All right, who's kicking it off with their list of nominees and winner of favorite album of 2000?
I will take the first crack at this, and there is just a ton of stuff that almost not quite made the list. You got Distills from White Stripes. You got Lost Souls from Doves. You got Renegades from Rage Against the Machine, one of my all-time favorite covers albums. U2, big comeback, All That You Can't Leave Behind. I think it's a great album. Really like it. Listened to it a lot in 2000. sort of spurred on sort of me listening to more and more music that was out at the time, but not quite on the list. And there's some other ones, but it's a really strong year. My runners up for my official lists this year, we got At the Drive-In with Relationship of Command. I remember watching the music video for One Armed Scissor on MTV2, really just being blown away because I'd never really heard anything like it. It's, post-hardcore, emo, just, the two main dudes have these giant afros. So it sort of warped my fragile little mind. And then like a week later, I called my friend and we were talking about it and he had seen the same video and we were both really into At the Drive-In for a while. Also on my list, I got Vini Vidi Vicious by The Hives, which really no one paid attention to in 2000. It wasn't until 2001 when the White Stripes and the Strokes kind of, revitalized the whole garage rock sound that people really noticed The Hives, but it's a great album and it was out first, so I got to give credit there. Just very fun stuff, very speedy. I like that, almost punk garage rock style. Also on my list, we got Stankonia from Outkast, one of my all-time favorite rap albums, Bombs Over Baghdad, just an awesome song. I remember hearing that a lot. Back in the day, Miss Jackson, So Fresh, So Clean. I think this really kind of starts the period where I really start to like rap, maybe because I was a teenager then, not sure why, but there's something about the sound of 2000 and then even more so a couple of years later that I really like and really get into. My top two is going to be a battle between one of my all-time favorites that I bought in 2000, loved this band for a long time, and an artist that I really didn't even know about till a couple of years ago, but I've listened to this album so many times in the last year, dozens of times. I listened to it again today. It's still great. So I got to give it to them. My runner-up is going to be Queens of the Stone Age, rated R. Just an awesome album. His new stuff really misses Nick Oliveri, who was the bassist, did sort of like a scream, harder metal kind of stuff. Really works well on this one. Love it. Loved it since I saw it on MTV too. One of the videos for a song on here. But the winner, and it may shock you, shock and amaze, got to go with Figure 8 from Elliott Smith. I just think it's such a masterful record. It's not his major label debut. It's the second one, but it just kind of, takes everything he's done and learned. It's an amalgamation of everything from EXO and Either Or. And it's so pretty. Everything is so catchy, but also like downtrodden. So it's this great mix of melancholy, upbeat, piano, guitar, depressing lyrics. And it's just, mostly him on guitar, him on piano, which he's an extremely underrated player. Everything sounds really cool, the way it builds and he adds layers. Not everything has drums. A lot of just him by himself, just playing acoustic, playing piano. You have some fuzz guitars come in every once in a while. You got Pete Thomas to do the drums on a bunch of tracks. So when there is drums, obviously it's phenomenal. And it's just, so pretty. I can't get enough of it. I've listened to it, like I said, so many times. I still love it. Maybe rated R takes the top spot again next year, tomorrow, next week. I don't know. But right now I got to go with Elliott Smith with Figure 8, my winner for 2000.
Total shocker. Would have never saw that coming. Thought it was going to be all Jay-Z, Kanye, Mars Volta for this whole decade.
All right. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I think this is a good year, a very good year, actually, as far as the quantity and quality of the music. But even though it's a good year, I've been kind of dreading getting to the year 2000 because it requires me figuring out what to do with Ryan Adams. I made a listography of his a month or two before the New York Times article came out. talked about how huge of a fan I was. So there are people that have been longtime viewers of the channel that know and are probably expecting high placement of some Ryan Adams records. But the fact of the matter is that I tried listening to it again this week, and I don't know, the kind of the joy that I've experienced listening to his music is kind of just not there for me right now. This is not me saying that Ryan Adams should or shouldn't be canceled or taking any type of moral high ground here, but just I'm leaving the door open. I think there's still a chance that someday, you know, the joy of listening to his music will come back for me. I know maybe a week or two ago, it was finally reported by someone that the FBI closed the case, said they didn't have enough evidence to press any charges, whatever that means. So I don't know where I stand with it right now, but all I know is that listening to his records doesn't feel the way that it used to. I still think they're great records. Obviously, the songwriting didn't change between when he wrote them and now. So, you know, if I did this list 2 years ago, it would have been probably an easy number one, but probably not going to see any Ryan Adams going through the years for me.
Well said, and this is a pretty personal subject for you and probably merits a larger conversation about, you know, we're three dudes that cover mostly rock music, which does not have a very pretty history of this sort of behavior. You know, I mean, we did the John Lennon video. He's got an ugly past. There's just, you know, rock music isn't the saving grace of humanity and moral standards all the time, but this one hits particularly close to you because he is like someone you feel used to feel very in touch with his music and one of your all-time favorites. So Ryan Adams will be making appearances for my list just because if I start differentiating scumbags, you know, then we're not left with too much rock music, unfortunately, is the truth. So proud of you for making that tough decision.
The upside to this is that, I mean, he was going to have a dominant decade for me. So now there's a lot of open slots for me to talk about other music that I love. So it'll be interesting to see going forward what is able to sneak into my list now. The 5 that I've got for this year are Nixon by Lamb Chop, band that I maybe somewhat more recently gotten into, going back through some of the other years and listening to the records for their 90s stuff. Really got me listening to them a lot lately. So they're going to creep into the top 5. I've also got Anthony and the Johnsons, the self-titled debut album from them. Just gorgeous voice, great songs, good stuff. I've got The Moon and Antarctica by Modest Mouse. I've got Figure 8 by Elliott Smith. But my winner is More Light by J Mascis and the Fog. Even without the Dinosaur Jr. name, he continues his dominance on my lists. It's a great record. Doesn't sound very different at all from Dinosaur Jr. It's maybe a little bit more melodic, a little more focused on songwriting, but that guitar is still there. It still sounds like Jay. It's unmistakable. You've got Kevin Shields, I think, playing some rhythm guitar and I think helping out on production as well. It's really, really good. I think if you are familiar with the reunited Dinosaur Jr., I think that's probably what it sounds most like, the record Beyond, their first reunion record. It's very, very similar to that. Really good, catchy tunes, great guitar playing, just more of the same great stuff from J Mascis.
What a shocker. So you replaced one person who you said would be dominating with someone who already is dominating. What is that? So 5 Dinosaur Jr. records and now 1 Jay solo. Is that correct?
4 Dino winners and 1 Jay.
It's a Jurassic monopoly, my friend. All right, let's get into my not top 5, just missing Figure 8 by Elliott Smith, Mass Romantic by New Pornographers, and then one I thought Joe would mention for sure, White Pony by Deftones. Usually not my wheelhouse, but I love that album. So what I've got as my nominees, I've got Binaural by Pearl Jam. I'm one of the only people on earth that think it's this good. It's a 4.5 out of 5 star for me. So just a spoiler alert, Jason likes it too. When we get to the Pearl Jam listography, it is going to be much higher than people will be willing to accept in the comment section, probably for me. Joe's already rolling his eyes. I've also got The Hour of the Bewilderbeast by Badly Drawn Boy. Great debut there. Don't remember mentioning it. And then I've got PJ Harvey with Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea. Weird with PJ Harvey. I've always liked PJ Harvey, but now I'm really starting to realize where PJ Harvey kind of sits in my all-time from doing albums of the year, because I think I nominated her twice in the 90s and now again. So yeah, pretty impressive turnout. And then I've got And Then Nothing Turned Itself Inside Out by Yo La Tengo. Not making my top 5, which weeks ago when I was looking at the list of 2000 releases, I thought for sure Parachute by Coldplay would get in there. Tough relationship I have with Coldplay. Love their first 2 albums, and then just a betrayal of mediocrity that comes after it. And I think Chris Martin is a tool bag, but whatever. I've also got my winner. Big surprise. It is Kid A by Radiohead. This is my 3rd album of the year for Radiohead. No surprise. I love them. They're my favorite. Only Rush, Bruce Springsteen, and U2 are other artists that have multiple album of the year wins for me with 2. So that puts Radiohead in the lead and might be the last one because the decade gets kind of tough. We'll see. But if you really want to hear what we have to say about Kid A, check out the Radiohead listography for all 3 of our opinions. I love it. It's a work of art. Tom York defended it when it came out, and it was really divisive that it's not a rock album. It is art. It is just art done through music, or however you want to call it. Doesn't have as many bleeps or bloops, as Joe likes to say. Love that term. As people or Joe thinks. There's a lot of really great playing on it, especially from Phil Selway. And there is some good rock stuff on it for sure. I think Optimistic is just incredible. The rhythm and kind of the drumming and the bass and the time signature of Limbo is just fantastic. The lush, just density of How to Disappear Completely is really impressive. I mean, it's a very cold, icy album. It's not a cheer up album. It's not something you put on at a party, next to the keg, obviously. Very few Radiohead albums are. Although I could party with the Bends on, well, no doubt. Hell yeah, we have. Who are we kidding? But yeah, I mean, this album, what else do you want to say about it? I mean, I'm not going to just talk about it because it is one of like the most covered pieces of rock criticism ever is about this album, about the effect, how monumental it is, blah, 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 blah. If you like it, you love it. If you don't, that's okay too. It is a completely different step in direction than OK Computer. You kind of got a little bit of tidbits on it, but they really went all in here. And I think it's just a masterpiece. 5 stars. Morning Bell at the end is just beautiful. What more could you want other than Joe wanting the guitar attack of the early Radiohead stuff? Motion Picture Soundtrack is the last song, excuse me. But yeah, I probably am surprising no one with Kid A. So any closing thoughts on 2000, guys? Are you surprised I went with Kid A?
No, that was probably the easiest thing I could imagine. That was not a surprise. The other one, songs, maybe a little bit, but I don't really know what you guys like other than I knew Jason loved all Ryan Adams stuff. So without him there, I have no crush to rely on. So I have no idea where you guys are going this decade. But I've been really looking forward to this one because this is the decade of me being in high school and college. So that means music that actually has like meaning and connected to life experiences and stuff. So it should be fun. I'm really digging going back and listening to some of these old albums I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the decade. I think there's, a lot of stuff that I know I love, but also having already compiled my 2001 list, there's going to be those albums that you kind of forget about, but then when you go back and check them out, they really hit the spot. So I got one of those on my 2001 list for sure.
Yeah, 70s is my favorite decade, but this one is my second favorite. And just because, like Joe said, this is our coming of age years, high school into college and early 20s. I remember how I felt listening to pretty much all of these albums. And it's also nice because this is when I started to catalog music, really index it. I've got like a 20-year-old, 18-year-old Word document with years and album titles and star ratings by it. So yeah, I love this decade. This probably is my least favorite year of the decade. So I am very enthusiastic about what's to come. You guys in the comments have been pretty good about guessing what our nominees and winners are going to be, but it probably is going to get a little tough this decade, but do your best. Let's see what you're thinking in the comments. We're going to do each for 2001. Let us know what your picks for 2000 are. And don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications and check out our social media presence in the description. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. On behalf of Joe, Jason, and myself, we will see you next time and next week in the year 2001. Thanks for checking out Listography. We'll see you next time.